you only have one life to live. You have one life to live. And let's do it in Israel. And if you have that attitude, what's pulling me back? Is it just the comfort level of what I always thought I was going to do? That's understandable, but if it's just a comfort level, where does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want me? Where do I see the Jewish people? Do I want to be a player? Do I want to be a fan? And that's something that I have felt strongly over the past few months. And I think Jews and Gullahs have felt that they're just fans. And I'm not looking down. I'm just saying it as a fact that people have called me, I feel helpless. And I say, daven and visit, but even there's different levels and gradations. So they feel helpless. So I'm not a chayal, but I had kids in the army. So I'm one step closer. I feel part of it. But my kids feel even more. They probably look at me and say, they don't. But
welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of the Be'in podcast. I just spent the past hour with Rabbi Shalom Rosner. Rabbi Rosner made Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael with his family in 2008, and over the past 15 years has been teaching Yeshiva at Reshit and Keren B'Yavne at different times. He just committed, for those that heard the news, to be the new head Rav of the American program at Machon Lev, which is the Jerusalem College of Technology, and also a part-time Rav in different ways at Machon Tal, which is the women's version of Machon Lev. There are so many exciting things happening for all those students that want to stay in Eretz Yisrael after their year in Yeshiva and Seminary, and we spoke about so many things related to that. And it was just awesome. The chizuk that I got about living in Eretz Yisrael from Rav Rosner, he honestly would have convinced me if I was, in Yeshiva and Seminary listening to this podcast. And I hope you guys are going to enjoy our conversation today. Without further ado, it's time to get into my conversation with Rabbi Shalom Rosner. Welcome to the Israel Gap Year Be'in podcast. I'm your host, Avi Proctor, and in each episode, we get Be'in in depth into the remarkable lives of individuals in Israel who dedicate themselves to inspiring the next generation of Klal Yisrael. Rabbi Rosner, thank you so much for joining me here in my apartment in Beis Shamir.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I have to give you a lot of Hakar Satov and credit for helping me get through my Bekias Seder when I was in Shraga, as I mentioned to you before you came into the room here. I feel like I know you very well, even though we never officially met in person. I've been, looking forward to this podcast for a while. I know we've been trying to make this one happen. I'm really appreciative that you're able to join me here today. With that being said, I think there's a lot that we could talk about right now, and there's a lot that you have in the making with Machon Lev and a lot of different things that you're doing here in Eretz Yisrael. And with that being said, of course, that's what's going on now. But I want to kind of hear about how you got here. How did you grow up? And then how did you end up getting here to Eretz Yisrael? And we'll kind of go from there.
Everything is Yata Tishmaya. I don't know how I got here exactly, but it's Yad Hashem, and you make decisions at each stage of your life, and you see where HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes you. And I grew up in Long Island in Far Rockaway, and was there for a wonderful childhood. I went to MTA. And a lot of people went to MTA in those days. Probably a third of my grade became rabbis.
Wow.
I don't know exactly. It was the year of the first Gulf War, 1990, 91. I don't know exactly, but many of them are heads of different yeshivot, both in Israel and in America. I studied 2 years in Yeshiva Shalavim, went back to YU, was on the YU campus for 20 years. And Baruch Hashem, wonderful, got college and Smicha and Kollel and Kollel Elyon, and I taught there. And along the way, I met my wife, who's a pediatrician, and I never lived in Washington Heights. Never had that.
But you were in YU for 20 years.
I was in YU for 20 years. Well, 4 years high school and then 16 years after. But we lived in Brooklyn for 7 years when my wife was in medical school and residency. And then we moved to Woodmere for 6 years when our oldest was going into pre-1A, and there were no English or Hebrew-speaking ganim in Borough Park where we lived. So we were looking around, and Baruch Hashem, we made it to Woodmere. We were part of a shul there for 6 years before we made Aliyah.
So if I told you back when you were in high school, this is where you'd be today, doing what you're doing, what would you say?
I did not think I was going to be a rabbi in high school. I thought maybe. I didn't have a specific plans. I knew I was not going to be a doctor. There's a lot of medicine in my family, but I am very far from medicine. I say that today as a joke. But medicine is very close to my heart. My father, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, my wife's sister, my brother-in-law. I have 2 children in medical school. But I am very far from being a doctor. But I thought, no, be a businessman. I didn't know. But sometime during Shana Alef, I realized that I wanted to live in Israel, and sometime during Shana Bet is when I realized that I wanted to really go into chinuch, meaning be teaching. I did not see myself in the rabbinate until a little bit later. But Baruch Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu, leads you to places where he feels fit.
So speaking about when you got into the rabbinate, I know you were a rav in a shul in America. So when did that period happen in your life?
So when we were, when I was part of my wife was in medical school, and then I was in the Kol Elyon, which requires also I don't know what the rules are now, but at that time a certain number of years in America before thinking about making Aliyah. So we knew we were going to be in America. We were looking to get out of Brooklyn for a number of years, and then there was a little minyan really that was just starting that we saw. One of my friends sent me a blurb about. He happened to be another rav of a different shul in Woodmere. It said davening and learning shul minyan. So we went. We knew we wanted to go out. Again, I never really saw myself in the rabbinate, but that sounded like a good fit. And the Baruch Hashem, the rest was history. We came with 20 families there. We left with 120 families in 6 years. It was really amazing, wonderful people. Siyata D'Shmaya, and I like to say I didn't leave them. I came to Israel.
So speaking about coming, and this is something that I've always wanted to speak about with you in person, is I heard that when you came to Eretz Yisrael in 2008, I believe, right?
Yeah.
There was a period when you gave a very, I guess, I would call it, of course, a passionate speech to your Kehillah members, but what was that process like of being a Rav in a shul? And when you say you actually came with people, but you didn't come with everybody. So kind of take me through what that transition was like.
We always knew we wanted to come. Some people have the challenge of family in one direction. I had in the other direction. My 3 siblings made Aliyah already. I was the only one left in America at the time with my parents. But we always thought about it. We always knew that it was a dream that we had. We didn't have a specific deadline. I always had an Aliyah clause in my contract in the shul, even though you don't need an Aliyah contract, but I wanted it in there. And our oldest was going into 7th grade at that year, and we started looking around. Nothing, and we spoke to many, many different rabbanim on both sides of the ocean, and everybody has different shikulim. And I try to do my best not to judge anyone. My wife and I spoke about not judging people who come, who don't come. Some people's shikulim are, I'm going to come and I'll do whatever I can in Israel. I want to raise my kids in Israel. That's fine, and that's one set of values. I didn't want to do that. I didn't feel that was my tafkid. I wanted, at that stage, I knew I wanted to be a rav and be involved in a yeshiva. So started looking around, and the Baruch Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu led us. The mashal of the helicopter, and Kadosh Baruch Hu sent you. So we felt at the time when a number of yeshivas, which ended up being reishit for 10 years, wow. and the community opened up. There was a builder that was starting to sell some houses as a community. So Baruch Hashem, we felt that was the calling. And it was again a lot of thought. My mother-in-law is a pediatrician, and my wife was going into her practice. So also to leave that is a decision, and to leave YU is a wonderful place. And I felt at home there, and leave all my rebbeim. But we felt that this was what Kadosh Baruch Hu, was opening up for us, and Baruch Hashem, it's really been starting from the second week we came. We had a minyan. We started in a school, and then 9 years later we built a building, and Baruch Hashem, really wonderful, great people that are part of the shul.
When you say we, how many families came with you from America?
Right. So again, it was. I would say it this way: there was a number of families that came. Obviously, not as much as we liked. Right after we announced, a few months later, the building market crashed, and nobody could sell their house, and. But a number of families, not right away. Interesting. There was one family that was, I would say, the most angry at me for leaving. Very close to us, but very strong. And how could the captain leave leave the boat? Baruch Hashem, he lives in Beit Shemesh today with his family. And, Baruch Hashem, one by one. Within, when we moved into the block, there were 36 houses on the block. Yeah. We moved in, there were 3 families, and within 2 years they were all sold. But again, people moved in from other places in Israel, a number from America, but Baruch Hashem, one by one is how we go, and Baruch Hashem, it's really been wonderful.
Speaking about being, called the captain of the ship, right, and getting a little bit of flack from people in your community, what was that like for you? of course, being the Rav of a shul and saying, you know what, I have my Kimihila members. They might not all come with me. They really utilize me in America. So how did you overcome that to come here?
It's a tough. I would say it's. I shouldn't say it's a tough. It's a question that many Rabbanim in Klei Kodesh ask. Rav Schachter writes about this, that different opinions. The Trumas Hadeshen 500 years ago writes that a person has to feel where he could serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu the best. And obviously that's part of Tzorchei Rabbim, plays a major role. But one has to recognize that, if there's a calling of a door and we need, American Anglo leaders in Israel as well. Again, I'm not judging anybody. We need Anglo-American Rabbanim leaders in America too, and throughout the world. And everybody has to make their own decision, their own personal decision. I think I did a podcast a few months ago for the RCA for something about this topic. But I think it's more of a shikul for. I shouldn't say it's more. It's a different shikul for every profession. Many professions that can be done online today, and. More of a personal family decision. That's one. Rabbanim have an added layer of thinking about the klal, but it has to be an honest, dishonest, and weighing the pros and the cons conversation with themselves and with their spouse, weighing all the values, and not just taking a easy way out, so to speak. More comfortable. It's more comfortable. Yeah, it's definitely more comfortable to stay where you used to. Right. But we have to think about where Kadosh Baruch Hu wants you. And I'm not saying the answer is for everybody, one way or the other. I won't say that, even though my children would want me to be a little stronger. But everybody has to have their own shikulim and figure out where they could have the greatest hashpah and the greatest avodas Hashem, fulfillment.
So I totally hear what you're saying, and I think that how your kids think that maybe there's like one cookie cutter answer, but of course there's not. And I'm sure you have a lot of rabbanim that you're so close with that are in the rabbinate in America, and they are doing their service and really helping the community. But in your personal opinion, of course we don't have to get specific here, but do you think more Rabbanim who have communities in America should really be considering trying to come here?
Considering for sure. I think every Jew needs to have it on the radar. Every Jew. And if somebody feels a little guilt, that's a good thing. For the people in Gullus that don't recognize that Israel is not just the center for the Jewish future, but it's the center for the Jewish present. And I think it's gotten a little easier over the last 7 months for people to recognize that Israel is the glue and where we need to, our past, present, and future, for sure. So it always has to be on the radar. What the ultimate and really on the radar and weighed and the options. And like I said before, again, if somebody feels like their tafkid is being in a certain area and I can't do that in Israel and I want to give to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm not judging. Everybody makes their own, but it has to be an honest decision. And there are people that remake themselves, and find different areas to once they make Aliyah. So again, I'm not judging, but really everybody from within has to have an honest conversation with themselves, because you want to not just beating the Mashiach rush, but it's also a model that the people see you go, and it's something that is the Kedushas Levi, I think. Kedushas Levi or the Normally Malach. Maybe it's Normally Malach. Normally Malach says that every dar has certain mitzvos that are specific for those dar. We have to do all the mitzvahs in every generation, but every dar has certain mitzvos that connect to that dar. I think he said he felt tzitzis was one of the ones in his door. So we have to think about our dar. Again, you never know for sure, but Avas Eretz Yisrael and the 2,000 years ago, Ezra was going to build the Beis HaMikdash, and most Jews didn't come. We think that, once there's a Beis HaMikdash, once there's Mashiach, okay, everybody's going to come. There were 22,500 Jews that came 2,000 years ago. And and we have to recognize, Rav Schachter likes to quote the Maharal Diskin in Parshas Mishpatim, that, Galus is an onesh. It's an onesh. And we have to recognize that. And, there are more people learning Torah today in Israel than any time in the history of the world. And first and foremost, that's because there's a government that protects and that probably gives more money than any philanthropist, in the world towards Torah study. All we hear about in the news is that people who want more, but recognize and have a karas hatov and recognize what we have today, and realize that's definitely one of the callings of our dar. our connection to the land, what's happened over the past 150 years is definitely, the Vilna Gaon already forecast that it was part of a process. And B'ez Hashem, we have where we find ourselves in that process. So I said, it definitely has to be on the radar. What the maskana is with every person, like I said, that's a personal decision. And I'm not there to say what everybody should do.
I could not agree more, and I think that's a great answer. And in terms of you coming here, and as you said, your oldest son was in 7th grade, right? When you're
going into 7th.
Going to 7th grade. So, raising children in Eretz Yisrael, especially bringing them from America, oftentimes a conversation that a lot of people have, and it's probably one of the biggest hesitations of choosing to come and either raise a family in Eretz Yisrael from scratch or even bring your family, is raising children is a lot harder in Eretz Yisrael from that perspective. So from being here for the time that you have and raising your own family and being a Rav of Kehilo, what would you say to that in terms of some of the things that people are hesitant about coming here?
I think you need siyata d'shmaya wherever you are with your children. We definitely need a lot of tefillas, or as Volby says, half of child rearing is davening. And, we have to recognize that and daven a lot. And how we measure values is different. It's challenging in that I would say they're going through something that I didn't go through. They're growing up in a country that I didn't grow up in. It's much more comfortable than what we're used to in staying where we are. But not always is the right answer the easier answer. And are there challenges? There are challenges everywhere. Is there more Gashmi challenges in America? For sure. Are there more, the biggest thing, I want to stay gray, here you have to choose right or left? That's true. The more people that come that are, so to speak, in a camp that believes in strong Torah study, that believes in being part of society, that believes in a strong state of Israel, the more people that come and that are part of that uchlusiyah, of that population, it just is mashpia. And there are many, many communities. You look around, again, before making aliyah, I want us to figure out exactly what community they're in. But if you think about just a few, you think about Beit Shemesh, and Renana, and Efrat, and Modi'in, and Yerushalayim. There's so many different places to choose from to find where one fits. It's not going to be an exact replica, but I like to say again, there's different measures of how one measures how avodas Hashem.
Right.
I've spoken about this in the past. So you can measure it based on dafim learned. You can measure it based on stucca given, and those are good measures. There are different measures in this country. You could have the guy who's the best guy in the Beis Medrash and he's wearing a t-shirt and jeans. It's just the way it is. A lot of people don't have other clothing than that. But there's another measure that, again, I felt very strongly over the past 7 months, and that's Mesiras Nefesh. I had 3 children in Gaza for a good 4 months, 2 sons and a son-in-law. And the level of Mesiras Nefesh that our children show for Am Yisrael, for Eretz Yisrael, it's something so beyond me and so beyond what I grew up with. Like when I finished high school, I wanted to go to Israel to learn and then come back and do my thing. My kids and many children in this population, how could you not give for your country a year or two? How could you not? You're just thinking of yourself. And it's a very, as many talk about, there's a gullus mentality, and Rav Kook talks about this, in Eretz Yisrael, it's Tzibur mentality. And there's a depth of responsibility that they feel. And that's something that, again, like I didn't grow up with, I don't have, but on Simchas Torah afternoon, when I put them in our cars and they drove off, they knew what they had to do. And I was the one that was anxious, and I was the one that was like, what's going on? But they knew this is Am Yisrael, and this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. And to measure levels of Mesiras Nefesh in our community of that believes in Torah, that believes in being part of the country, that believes being part of the Gula process, we're off the charts in terms of Mesiras Nefesh levels. Does that mean we have plenty to work on? Every group of Jews has what to work on. But in terms of that Mesiras Nefesh, I think many others could learn from our community in terms of that. But again, obviously we have to strengthen many other Torah and Tznius and everything needs to be strengthened. But that shouldn't be taken away. And that's something that is very special. And my kids got it growing up here. Again, like I said, we need siyata d'shmaya wherever we bring up our children. Right. And everybody chooses how much you want to, and there's no right and wrong answer. Some like to be in a more American place right when they come, which makes it a softer landing. But in the long run, if the goal is to integrate, it makes it a little more challenging. Some like to be more integrated at the beginning, but it makes the beginning a little more challenging. So you got to find the balance that works for you. And Be'ez Hashem, and daven a lot. And our kids thank us every day that we're here. Baruch Hashem, Siyata D'Shmaya. Some are more Israeli than others, but Baruch Hashem, my son-in-law doesn't speak too much English, and thank God, he's great, and the other kids are really great.
Baruch Hashem that your kids thank you today, and now that you're here and you're established, Baruch Hashem, and I really appreciate your perspective on everything like this. When you look at world Jewry, specifically American Jewry, with all that's going on right now, after you've come here and gotten established and seen every positive of being here in Israel, of course, all the negatives as well, is it hard for you to see how many people are still in the diaspora?
It's a good question. Like I said, I don't look at it as hard. I feel, and my wife also says this often, people are just missing out. That's how we look at it. Especially, I would say, at this time of year that we find ourselves between Pesach and Shavuos. Mm-hmm. It's such a full, like every week there's something. Every week there's something. Right? Yom HaZikaron is one of the most powerful days of the year, which I knew nothing about growing up. Wow. Yom HaZikaron was not... Somebody once described it, and it's true, it's like a national hug. Yahrzeit is personal for every nofel. But Yom HaZikaron is a national hug. And it's something it's a very intense day. And it's intense in a painful, but it's ultimately positive. It connects. There are obviously always radical fringes that try to sow hate and pirud. But in general, so is Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaTzmaut, and Lag BaOmer is a national holiday here, and Yom Yerushalayim. It's just a very full calendar, and even besides that, just the whole year, so many things of the calendar going on based on the Hebrew, and you're living it, and you're not a fan on the sideline, and that's all I say. I don't know does it bother me? Again. There are other people that talk. No, I have a platform that I get to speak to many different audiences daily and weekly and monthly. So there are those that say, Rabbi Rosner, you got to speak more. You got to scream. That's not my derech. We try to inspire. We try to uplift. And it's not, I forgot the word that you used. Does it bother, hate? I don't remember exactly what.
Is it hard for you? That was more.
Is it hard? Is it hard? Right. You said, is it hard? It's not hard. Like I said, I feel that, people are missing out. I wish and I hope that more and more people come and are inspired to take part in this gift. Right? There are 3 gifts. There's only 3 gifts that the Gemara in Bracha says. The first thing the Rishon B'Chai says in Shas. There are 3 gifts. Torah, Olam Haba, and Eretz Yisrael. 3 gifts. So 2 of them people jump at. Why one of them is what somebody once described to me. He says, it's amazing. We look for chumras in every area of life. If there's a das yachad of the Rishonim that the Eliyahu Rabbah quotes in the back in the Hosafos, we'll try to do it because it's a chumra, it's a das yachad. We'll try to do every chumra in the book. And all of a sudden it comes to Eretz Yisrael. Is there a mitzvah? Is there a chif? Maybe it's a mitzvah kiyumis. Maybe it doesn't apply today. Maybe this, maybe that. We look for the opposite. It's like we live in a world of chumrah. We live in a world of we try to be makbid about super duper everything. And for some reason in this area, it's more challenging for people. Like I said, we have to be very honest. And again, I don't judge, but we try to encourage. And again, one by one. And the more and more, I think Corona helped a lot because people saw that they could work from home. I think the push, it's always the push or the pull. I think the push over the past 6-7 months, after we were massacred, the spike in anti-Semitism is unreal. It's unbelievable. I wasn't alive in Germany in the beginning of the 1930s. My father was born in Berlin in 1935. Wow. He was on the Kindertransport. But I can't imagine, the universities, that's where it is. And in 15, 20 years from now, these are going to be the governmental officials. Right now, the government, Baruch Hashem, is still generally with us and positive. But it's scary and it's nervous, and again, we have to try to figure out. There hasn't been a gullus in 2,000 years that ended well. Right. There has not been a gullus that has ended well. Halavai, this one should end well, but we have to try to think clearly and see where life is heading.
I could not agree more with everything you're saying. And on the topic of you just said universities in America are getting pretty crazy, and also quite frankly across the world or wherever you are. You segued perfectly into exactly what I want to speak about with you today, which is staying in Eretz Yisrael after your time in Yeshiva and Seminary, and the big move that you just made to join the program at Machon Lev. I would love to hear more about that. I know Shlomo Anapel, shout out to him, who's hopefully listening to this. There's a lot that you guys are working on. So what made you say, you know what, I'm going to go to one of the top Jewish universities in Eretz Yisrael and try to get as many American kids to come join you?
It was, like I said, it was a decision. Again, at every stage, you have to figure out where HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you. I've been involved in education since we made Aliyah 16 years ago, 10 years in Reishat Yerushalayim and 6 years in Keren B'Yavneh. And they've both been wonderful places to be at. This opportunity first presented itself last year. I didn't think it was the right time. But later on in this year, we felt that this was an opportunity to be able to be mashpia in a major way. We daven, we hope, one at a time, but to be able to create an option to take away another excuse of those who say, no, I want to do college in America, I want to do college elsewhere, I want to get an education and be in a Torah environment. So there are universities in Israel that try that. But Machon Lev, a number of years ago, started about 5 or 6 years ago. You have to ask the people that have been there longer. Majors in English. Majors in computer science and business and other types of majors. They also have the girls program Machon Tal, but they haven't really. And it's a university that they have Torah. They have a huge base Medrash, and they have 7 or 8 or 9 shiurim in Hebrew that have been going on. There's hundreds of guys in the base Medrash every day. But there hasn't really been shiurim in English, in Gemara, again, they started a little bit over the past, and wonderful people, the past couple of years, but it hasn't been a major push and thrust to be able to create a campus where, one could continue in their learning and also get a degree in Israel. And doing it in English, again, the goal is to ultimately be integrated. So therefore, I think later on the courses, some of them are in Hebrew. There's a major Ulpan that's offered because the goal is to get to know Hebrew, but at least the comfort level at the beginning to learn in English and to learn Torah on a high level every day. Along with the Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Rimon, he's the Rosh Yeshiva of all of Machon Lev, so to be near him is unbelievable. And he gives some halacha shiurim a couple times a week, but again, I don't think he gives a daily daf. Again, I'll know more once I'm there every day starting next year. But this is it presented an opportunity that I felt that could impact American Jewry and could impact Israeli Jewry in terms of creating the B'nai Torah that could keep learning, being in a setting of a university. Again, where the Talmidim are going to come from, whether it's post Shana Bet, Shana Gimel, whether it's guys who already did the army and are coming, even if there are Israelis that are English speakers that want to come to the shiurim, we're open. I've gotten WhatsApps. I'm learning in a different university. In Yerushalayim. Could I come to the shiurim? Wow. So we just want to create a strong base Medrash right now, wow. And if we could do that, and then but also as part of a program. It's not just the Torah. It's Shabbatonim and being the family for those that whose family are away, to create a comfortable environment that parents could be comfortable with. I want let's go back to college and then you'll make Aliyah. We know that half the people or 3/4 of the people don't make Aliyah after that, and this hopefully could create an option. I'll be teaching, giving also a weekly class in Machon Tal by the girls, and that's the goal. The goal is to create an opportunity to be able to stay in Israel, which many people want to do. Many want to do, and continue learning on a serious level in Yerushalayim, Yer HaKodesh, wow. And go from there. And we love, we'd love to have the yeshivos. Again, the one thing also that grabbed me about this opportunity is that I could be involved and go to all the different yeshivas and give shiurim. Wow. I love the 2 yeshivas that I was just with, but there's a certain loyalty when you're with one yeshiva that you have to keep. In this way, over the past couple of months, I've been giving shiurim all over in all the different Hesder or non-Hesder programs to be able to, so to speak, drum up business and to be able to have that. We're hopefully having a Shabbaton for all prospective students in a couple of weeks, and very exciting to be able to be part of it.
I've actually seen some of those pictures of different speeches and shiurim that you've given at different yeshivas. And Baruch Hashem, there's a great turnout. And it seems like what you guys are trying to create essentially is keeping that spark of yeshiva while also allowing you to get your college degree. Now, the question I have for you is, of course, there's the mono-Orthodox system that most of these kids grow up in. And then there's the yeshiva system. Do you think that if you look at a typical mono-Orthodox system in America, they have an Israeli flag in their gym. They play out tikva before the games. They say they're all, Eretz Yisrael, Rura, pro-Zionist. But at least for myself, I won't say the high school I went to. I love the high school, but nobody talked about moving to Eretz Yisrael. Oh, you go to your gap year, you come back after 2 years, you go to YU or you go to Second College, and showing, Right. What's going wrong there potentially?
I think that the schools definitely have to be talking about it more. It starts often with the parents. And the families. I often say, so I speak to people and they're like, we're not making Aliyah. I said, okay, you're not coming? Support your kids. Your first reaction when your daughter comes home and says, I want to stand with Shirut Leumi, maybe first come back, maybe. No, support them. If you think that you're not in the stage of life to be able to come, support your kids. Support your kids. I met with a certain philanthropist on the campus a couple of months ago. So he said, we're not going, but I want to help out so my grandchildren could grow up in Israel. Wow. I thought that was an amazing statement. So for sure we have to do more because people are thinking about it in theory and not lamaisa. Israel is a great place to visit. Israel is a great place to get out of it what you get out of it, but to give to it is different. There's a mentality to look at. It just has to do with whether it's the country or it's the army, or are they serving me or am I serving it? If I look at something as serving me, so then what could I get out of Israel? I could get a year or two of learning. I could get great restaurants and vacations. I could get. But what could I give? What could I give? If I see Israel as a value, what could I give to the country, to the people, to the nation? And that's part of the issue. What's happening in our day and age with the tzava. If I look at the tzava as an army as a privilege, as a way to serve, it doesn't serve me. I serve it. That would solve a lot of the issues that we're having in various circles. But again, that's how you have to look at Eretz Yisrael too. In Israel, we're there to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're there to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Just like we don't learn Torah because what I get out of Torah, but what I admire and respect about Torah and do so we have to do that about Israel too. So you're right. It's the American modern Orthodox community. There are some schools that push it very much, but it's in the minority. But again, I think it starts with the whole communities. It's not just the schools; it's the communities, because the second the schools start talking about it, the parents are going to get upset and they say, "How could you talk about it?" But so it starts with the community and recognizing that Israel is not just a place that you could visit. And again, if it's not for you, it's for the next generation. And support your children. Support your children who want to move, who want to do the army, who want to do Shirut Leumi. And I think that could have a major impact. And the shul should make a big deal when there's some shuls do. Right. In terms of when they have not just families that make aliyah, but single, chayalim bodedim, whatever it is.
Oh, and I couldn't agree more with what you just said. And I think part two of that question is, of course you have the high schools and you have chinuch in America, and the parents should absolutely support the children in that step of moving to Eretz Yisrael. But once they go from high school to that year in yeshiva and seminary, they have a very, call it somewhat for most people, an open opportunity to kind of pick their path in life, whether it's hashkafically, career-wise. A lot of people choose to go back to America. Now, just like I asked before, if you think schools in America are there's something missing, do you think yeshivas and seminaries in Eretz Yisrael should be doing a better job at trying to encourage their students to stay?
So that's a good question also. I would say the same thing. Certain schools, they would get it from the parents if they start pushing too much in terms of that. There are some schools that have more of a reputation of kids go there and stay and do the army and continue with. So I think it's tricky. The school's primary perspective is inspiring the students to be better Jews and to be inspired and to be shomer Torah mitzvos. Have to just add on. Again, it's hard. High school is a hard age, and but Baruch Hashem, if anybody goes to Israel, that's already a victory. That's already a victory. What percentage of high schoolers don't go to Israel. So once they go to Israel, it's a tremendous victory. And the schools have to push halacha and Torah, and Eretz Yisrael should be a value too. Again, some, like I said, are do it more than others. For sure, if we're hoping that with this option, maybe it could be a little easier. Be easier that because the big issue is where am I going to learn?
Right.
So hopefully now there'll be an option of where am I going to learn? People have been involved in this program in the past couple of years, but they've learned elsewhere because there wasn't as strong a central Beis Medrash on campus. They learned in Grus, they learned in other places, but this is to create that vibrant environment on campus of Torah, of getting an education, and it's second to none. They're very high standards. It's a hard major. It's hard courses, wow. And but it has a very good reputation in Israel, and the hope is that this will create an option that students will be comfortable with, that parents will be comfortable with. And we have a lot of ideas in terms of programming, in terms of long term. But the point is to get it started and to be able to get the word out so that principals or schools in Israel will be comfortable advising and encouraging their students to join us.
Speaking about getting the word out and high hopes, all I could hear from you in the underlying of what you're saying is just there's so much potential there, Amir Sham. And I remember because I was living next to Shlomo Anapel, shout out to him again. He's done an awesome job at really shaping this program, and there's so much on the horizon. And if I asked you right now, in 5 years from now, what do you hope this program is going to look like? What would that be?
I'm trying to think. It's always hard to say though. Do you think in 5 year, 10 year?
What would you hope?
Hope halavai. It should be a place that's known as a strong Beis Medrash, a place to go to learn, a place that you go to keep growing, to develop a kesher with Rebbeim, to be able to get a degree, and to be able to prepare you for life. A life living in Israel, a life that you could remain committed and be strong Torah and strong whatever else you want to be. It's difficult, and sometimes now you'll see it's getting more and more common, but often you walk into a hospital and you'll see somebody who looks very frum and educated, and they're a doctor, and you think to yourself, they made aliyah, because the concept of being a very frum learner-earner is not as common, because let's say in the Chutz La'aretz world, you could go to a very yeshivish place and still get a college degree and go to medical school and go to law school, whatever it is. And in this country, it's less. But we want to be able to say, just because you're going to get a degree doesn't mean you stop learning. Just because you finished Hesder, you could do all of Hesder 5 years and then come. Just because you finish Hesder doesn't mean you stop learning and you could be a strong Ben Torah. Again, there are those out there. I have family members and I have nephews that are, but I'm just saying in general, we need to make that more of a thing. We need to make it more common that you could be out there strong Torah and, Tzioni, and getting a degree and being involved in the community, being involved in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's land, in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's present, like we said before, and having a big impact.
And I'm very curious, based off of what you said, and we mentioned before how something you really enjoy is going to now all these different yeshivas. And of course, now that you're not affiliated with anyone specifically, you get to interact with a lot of guys. And I know throughout this year, you were speaking at different yeshivas about what's going on in Machon Lev. I'm sure after those speeches, guys always come over to you and speak with you. So what would you say are some of the hesitations and fears of guys when they have this opportunity where they would typically go back to America? Let's say they're enrolled in the university, and now all of a sudden this awesome program with yourself and Machon Lev comes about. Like, what are the fears that most people have, and what kind of deters them, and what do you kind of say to those?
Number one is just fear of the unknown. They don't know, I never heard of this, but no, it's new. But new doesn't mean, something negative. New means, you jump in and be part of something that's on not just on the horizon, it's here. I would think that the biggest conversation that I have is not so much in terms of the parnasa, it's in terms of a spouse. In terms of, I want to go back, and maybe I should go back first and first find my wife, find my husband, and then come. So that's always taking a chance, because, if you go back, then who knows if you're going to come back. And again, I never tell a student yes or no. Right. And I learned that from my Rabbi Rosner. Wow. He never gives you a yes or no answer. He goes through the issues and help you make your own decision. So I would never take that achrayus to tell somebody you need to stay or you need to go. I would just try to go through the issues and help make it clear and what the issues are. But again, the more we get, and again, if we could get both the girls, the Machon Lev, which is bursting. Wow. They just started a nursing program in English, which is already overbooked, and they're working on a pre-med option in Machon Lev. So the more we get, Baruch Hashem, people get married here too, and people find shidduchim here too. Again, there's challenges in shidduchim wherever you are, right. And you need a lot of siyata d'shmaya for that too. But again, the more people that are here, the more the basket is, and I'm a big fan of getting married young. So. That's, we push them. And in general, people get married, earlier stages of their development in this country. In America, you've already finished college. And my son spent 7 years in Yerucham, my oldest son, and then he started medical school. So you get married earlier. You get married earlier before you start anything. And parents help, and you do what you can. So I would say that's probably the biggest question. But again, the more people that are here, the better. And a second point is the parents' issue. So again, the more comfortable the parents are with the place that we're creating, that's why hopefully we're gonna be going to different communities and high schools, and once or twice a year in February to go speak to those communities to let them know. Even if the kids, if I was a 12th grader, I don't know if I would be thinking about Machon Lev. If some people are already, but a lot of times people are turned on to Israel during their year. They don't realize they're going to want to stay until that. Parents might know about it, but to create that vibe that we could be an option on their mind, just to know it's there, even going in, so that it could be a more comfort landing zone when the time comes. I
cannot help but think, but when you speak about everything that's going on, of course, everything's new and exciting, and there's a lot there, right? And of course, people have their hesitations, don't get me wrong, because we're all human beings. But sometimes when something's new and there's a new opportunity in life, you have to be, let's put the word a pioneer in a certain way, or you have to have some level of guts to be that person to take a step when your friends might not be going in that direction. What would your advice be to somebody who might be listening to this, that's in their year in Eretz Yisrael, that's like, do I want to stay, or do I go back to America where all my friends are going? What would your advice be to those people?
First of all, you're not jumping off a cliff. You're going to a college. You're not going to be alone. And if somebody is miserable, Rahman al-Islam, there's always, America's not going anywhere right now. Mm. But looking at America right now, it's not the greatest, comfort level either. So it's you're not going to be alone. You're going to be in Yerushalayim. You're going to be with Rebbeim. You're going to be with friends. So it's pioneering, but it's not so pioneering. There's a campus there. There's a Beis Medrash there. You're not going to a caravan on a mountaintop, which is fine for some people. But there's a huge Beis Medrash with a library, with classrooms. It's already built. It's an institution that exists. That is a strong institution. We're adding the Torah in English layer. And that's, I think it's ESP is the official name, English speaking program. And that's what we're adding. So it shouldn't be scary in that way. You're going to college in Israel. And we have to do what we can. And again, this is more of Shlomo's job and not my job. In terms of I push, again, to the more majors we could have, the more interest it could be for people. But if somebody's not interested in the 6 majors. So again, we could work with them, and then there could be some joint with some other universities in the area they've spoken about. But that's a detail. That's a detail. If somebody wants to stay in Israel and wants to be in a Torah environment, come talk to us, and then we could work out to see if it's matim and if it's appropriate. So I would say it might be something new to think about, but it's getting a degree and learning Torah and keeping on growing in Israel, and it's something that maybe this option wasn't there before, but we want to create it as an option. Again, take away another excuse of reasons not to come. And it's exciting, and we hope with a lot of siyata d'shmaya we could help make a dent and help each student one by one.
In terms of other things about the program, I feel like not everybody's aware about this. When it comes to Eretz Yisrael, universities are a fraction of the cost of what they would cost in America.
Yeah, I didn't even mention that. It's I don't know. It's compared to $40,000, $60,000, about 12,000 shekel. I don't even know exactly what it is. Yeah, that's a huge. If you want to talk to parents, that's a huge one. That's a huge benefit, and you don't even have to make aliyah in order to get a huge benefit. If you don't, I don't want to make aliyah yet. I don't know. again, if one wants to participate in the army, if one wants to do, I have a Talmud from who was in KBY that's finishing up Machon Lev next year. He's doing what's called an Atuda. They have programs to do where you could do engineering or do some computer science with the army. First you get your degree and then you do 2 or 3 years of army service. There's many different options that one can contribute. But the first step is to recognize that it's an option, to figure out exactly what the best way to do it is. Again, we hope that there are some that, again, not just post right after Shana Bet or Shana Gimel, but after people did the army, they're older. Shana Dal Shana. When I was in YU, when I was a Rebbe in YU, I had guys that stayed in my shiur for 3 years, older, younger. So that's wonderful. That doesn't mean that I can't be in shiur except with the guys my age, the Shana Alef shiur and Shana Bet shiur. No, you're learning Torah. You're together in the Beis. And you'll have a morning seder, you'll have a night seder, and the classes will be in the afternoon, and to create that environment.
I think a conversation, at least, that I've come across with many different people that have either decided to stay in Eretz Yisrael after their time in Yeshiva and Seminary, or are going through that process, is something about the system here that we have to always be open about is you either send your children this way or that way, but there's a value, as you said earlier, that if we have more people that are normal that are going to come to Eretz Yisrael, it might change the curve. So when somebody says to you, Rabbi Rosner, I'm hesitant to come to Machon Lev to make Aliyah or choose to stay in Eretz Yisrael because now I have to pick my path. I don't want to go to the army. I have this American mentality. I don't know Hebrew. Like, what did you ever have those conversations?
Just come get a degree and we'll figure it out. You don't have to. You're coming to Machon Lev. You don't have to choose right then. Right now, you're just choosing to learn Torah, to get a degree. That's all that one is choosing. And as you develop, and as one develops and figures out exactly which world or which direction they want to continue in, that's fine. It happens to be that on the campus there are many, in the Israeli side, there are many Haredim that are getting degrees there. Because it's an all-boys campus. It's an all-frum. Every professor is frum. Wow. That's the campus that they have. It's a college. It's not a university officially. And I think that allows them to be more selective. Again, this is like a political thing. I don't know anything about it, but that's why I think it's a very frum setting, and that's why there are people that are from different worlds that want to be part of it, that are comfortable there. And you see a lot of them on campus. So again, that shouldn't be a hesitancy because one doesn't really have to choose in this regard. So I got one call a few months ago about I want to sit and learn in the mirror. You think Machon Lev is for me? I said then if you want to just sit in the mirror now, so then that's probably a different path than right now. But most people, if you want to get a degree, the choice is either to go back to get a degree in America or here. Get a degrry, learn Torah, and you'll figure it out. It's not something that one has to decide right now. But again, getting the degree in America versus Israel is now there's an option. There's an option that hopefully could be open to many people.
I couldn't agree more with what you just said about you figure it out a little bit, right? And through this whole process of you now deciding to join Machon Lev and leave, call it the Yeshiva bubble that you were in, are you impressed by how many guys are now and girls are now considering staying in Eretz Yisrael? Are you what are your thoughts on what you're seeing after you decide to take that jump?
I'm definitely excited about the people. I think girls are a little easier than boys in terms of their wanting to stay. But there's many boys. I'm not there yet, so I can't give a full answer to that question. Right. I've spoken in various yeshivas and the yeshivas that I'm involved in now. There's definitely an interest. I was speaking to somebody from Nefesh B'Nefesh, and they said, interesting, if historically a lot of the huge influx from, let's say, after 1967 or after other events like that was a year later. Wow. Meaning the event made people jarred people, and then a year later. So they said they're hoping that probably not this summer, but next summer, they're hoping for something. Hopefully this summer it'll be something big. But we're hoping that more and more, as people see other people think about it and realize, and it's a little bit. I hope it's the pull. There is a lot of push in our day and age, and one shouldn't just come to Israel just because Galus is blank. It is an onesh, like we said before, and we should be here. Again, mitoch shelo lishma balashma. That's definitely something, but it's there are challenges where everyone lives, and want us to realize that it's real life. Real people live there. The best thing to do is to go to different families in different communities and see real people living there. But it's definitely something that is on people's radar more. Sometimes mitoch tsaras, we were able to see a little clearer, and where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is leading us. So we hope, as Hashem, that with a lot of siyata d'shmaya and a lot of effort from the team, that we could one by one help the young men and women stay in Israel, grow in Israel, and become vibrant parts of the society.
I think you made a great point a second ago that, when all this is going on, it sometimes attracts more people to move to Eretz Yisrael. And I know that, the numbers for Aliyah are shooting up in Mitzvah Hashem from here. Now,
which is so strange amongst our nation. When something happens to us, that's when we all want to come here. It just shows us something about Am Yisrael.
Baruch Hashem. How would I phrase this? In terms of students that are in the year in Eretz Yisrael, I've personally seen this year through the interactions of different yeshiva and seminary students that I've worked with personally, that a lot of them, after the war, as we're discussing, are beginning to think more about this option of staying in Eretz Yisrael. If you had a room of students, because the people that are listening to this are that room essentially, and I'm sure by the title of this episode, people will click on it because they are those students that are on the fence about going back to America and building a life there, or choosing to take the path and come to Eretz Yisrael. What would you say to a room of students if you had them in front of you right now?
My wife told me as we were making our final decisions, figuring out, you only have one life to live. You have one life to live. And let's do it in Israel. And if you have that attitude, what's pulling me back? Is it just the comfort level of what I always thought I was going to do? That's understandable, but if it's just a comfort level, where does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want me? Where do I see the Jewish people? Do I want to be a player? Do I want to be a fan? And that's something that I have felt strongly over the past few months. And I think Jews and Gullahs have felt that they're just fans. And I'm not looking down. I'm just saying it as a fact that people have called me, I feel helpless. And I say, daven and visit, but even there's different levels and gradations. So they feel helpless. So I'm not a chayal, but I had kids in the army. So I'm one step closer. I feel part of it. But my kids feel even more. They probably look at me and say, they don't. But every step that you're closer in is something that makes you. It's a real existence. It's real. It's not easy. It's not simple. Rahman al-Islam, there's been tremendous pain in many areas. We've had my son's lost a number of his good friends, but it's something that's it helps build the nation. My oldest son, who's in medical school now, one of his study partner, he heard when he was in Khan Yunis, he found out on the news because they don't have any. They listen to the news, and he found out his study partner was killed, which was obviously very painful, and he didn't come out for another couple of weeks. What he's doing now, medical school, they're creating a major in medical school in his memory, trying to figure out exactly the kinds of things that he was into, and just this is how Am Yisrael works, and this is and it's taking the situation that we're given, making the best of it, being part of the Geula process. And it's the first time in 2,000 years that we could do that, as Rav Rimon has spoken about often. Every time in the past 2,000 years when a Jew has gotten pushed down, he stayed down. There's nothing else to do. He crawled away. Crawled away by every pogrom, by every Inquisition, by every Holocaust. He crawled away. And this is the first time since the days of David HaMelech that we're able to stand up and say, we're not crawling. This is our land, this is our country, this is our nation, and we're standing up for ourselves. And it's a tremendous chus that Hashem gives our generation. And we have to recognize that. And it's a schus. That's what it has to be. There are various groups that don't recognize that it's a schus. It's a real schus. And to be part of it is an opportunity to be able to partner with Hashem. And Bez Hashem, more and more, and all of Am Yisrael will recognize that, and we'll be able to bring the Geula.
So I want to actually end off with one final question to you, and that's for anybody that's listening to this podcast, or anybody that you come across in the future. If you had one message in a bottle that was like, take this message with you wherever you go for the rest of your life, what would that be?
Relating to Israel, relating to...
Lav Dafka, could be anything. I mean, it happens. We were talking about Eretz Yisrael today.
That's very hard. Maybe I'll say a Kutzker that many of my Talmidim know that I love. The Kutzker says, Pasuk says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, Alei Elai Hahar V'yesham. Go up the mountain and be there. Go up the mountain, or go up Har Siya V'yesham. So he asked the Kutzker, if you go up the mountain, you're there. Alei Elai Hara Vayesha, and be there. You're there. You go up the mountain. Explains the Kutzker. You could go up the mountain and not be on the mountain. You could go to whatever you're doing and you're not there. You could go to davening and you're not at davening. You're just going through the motions. Life is not about going, but it's about experiencing. It's not just going up the mountain, it's being on the mountain and experiencing the mountain. You can make aliyah and not make aliyah. Make aliyah and make aliyah. Go to the shir and be at the shir. In life, it's our job to get the most out of the experiences that we go through. It's not just a question of rote. It's not just a question of going through the motions. So whatever a person does in life, every tefillah, every shir, every mitzvah, alei le'ahara ve'yesham. Go up the mountain and be there and do it and get the most out of it.
I feel like that is definitely a message I will keep in my pocket forever, and I really, really, appreciate that one. And as I, said to you before, I feel like I learned a tremendous amount about what is happening here in Eretz Yisrael, and I'm proud to be a part of what's going on, and I just want to thank you again so much for taking the time to join me.
Thank you so
and
much.
If anybody wants to learn more about Machon Lev, I'll put it in the in the description and whatnot, and Mr. Shem will fill up that program, and more Jews will be living in Eretz Yisrael.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for watching today's episode with Rabbi Shalom Rosner. I thoroughly enjoyed this one, and I hope you guys did as well. If you guys want to learn more about Machon Lev and Machon Tal and all the new things that they have offered, you can check the description of this video, whether it's on YouTube or even on Spotify 24/6, Amazon, Apple, wherever you're listening to this podcast. Also, don't forget to give this podcast a share to a friend if you think they could take some chizuk from this as well. And for all you that are coming back every single week to listen to this podcast, I have a tremendous amount of a karsato for each and every one of you. So thank you so much. If you guys have any feedback about this podcast, I would always love to hear, because I know people reach out to me all the time. You can reach me at proctoraigY@gmail.com. I'll put it on the screen or in the bio below. Thank you guys so much for watching this week, and I look forward to seeing you in the next podcast coming soon.